Good morning, everyone. Let's start with our market commentary. Now, what we see is basically the daily chart of Nifty. Now, after understanding the higher resistance zone, which is basically trying to be a good resistance as of now, what we see are levels of 10,700 and 10,620 still holds as a upper resistance band. Now, what we see continuously, there has been an uptick throughout the way from 10,000 towards 10,600. Second, what we observe is a good base trend line is being followed over here. Okay, so till it does not go away from the trend line or maybe towards the right, we cannot turn out to be bearish on Nifty. So if we just extend this trend line in the simple sense, still the trend is pointing on the upside. Basically, it went sideways for 3-4 days over here, consolidated, but there is no breakout on the downside, right? So yesterday, even after HDFC went down, when Nifty was down, it was able to push itself high and go sideways, right? So even today, it is trying to go up or remain sideways, but yet not this trend line is being broken. So the lower channel is basically kept intact, and now it is entering into the higher resistance zone. So as simple as that, till the expiry, things will remain uptick or upward bias because of a lot of people getting trapped on the short side. Now let us see whether this will keep persisting or not, and on the higher side where it can go towards expiry towards 10,700 or so, right? And then once it tries to go beyond on the right hand side beyond this trend line, that is where a straight sign of reversal or a follow-up downside can come into existence. Now let us understand if once we have understood if it is going sideways, you can basically look out for some correction in your way. But now if the correction comes by, we need to understand where it can go down and stop. So if I look out over here on the downside, this was the pullback which happened by opening gap down. It zoomed up. So roughly around 10,400 becomes a good support for Nifty. First is that the second big candle base is formed around 10,150, or you can say around 10,200 mark. So we can say around every 200 points there will be a stop for Nifty. So from 10,600 or 10,400, and then it can merge towards 10,200 or so. So let's just try to annotate in the simple sense. We can basically say it would go sideways, and then if a downside comes into existence, it basically first it needs to go on the sideways, right, around these range, so that it passes this trend line, then it tries to merge on the downside. So this is the first stop, and the second stop straight away comes around this, and if things are not certain, it can go down towards 10,000. So this is the way Nifty would look like in the next 15 days. First, it needs to go sideways beyond this trend line, remaining sideways once it crosses the base, which is roughly around 10,520 or so. Then the downside starts. The first support comes around 10,400, then around 200, and then straight towards 10,000. So this is the way Nifty can pan out in the next 15 days or so. Another point which we need to understand, and we should also not keep that out of sight, if it remains sideways and then the Karnataka election comes around this 10,400 mark. So let's say in 15 days Nifty comes down sideways and then down towards this 10,400, and if BJP wins the election on the Karnataka state, even not by majority, by coalition or something like that, you can basically see a good upside coming into play. So 10,800, then touching down around this 10,600 mark, trying to zoom towards 11,000 or so. So these are the two scenarios which can be built. Obviously, it's not going to remain range bound in this 100 point range which you have seen in the last 1 week time, right? So we need to be clear what's happening when and with important levels, right? So 10,400 becomes our eyesight, where you need to focus on, and straight away then towards 10,200. right? So those two levels are unique for us, and on the upside is only possible if the Karnataka election is won, but only if it crosses the upper point which is made in this expiry. So let's say if it does not cross 10,600, it has to pass this 10,600 in order to reach 11,000 successfully. So it has to cross, then it has to test. If you see, it has crossed, it will test, and then it will reach towards 11,000, right? So the most volatile month is going to be the next month, because a lot of events are panned out and it is just the post result month, right? So normally the volatility remains intact in the post result month. So keeping that in mind, let us see how things pan out. Coming down now to, let's say, Bank Nifty. So Warren, you have seen Nifty is going sideways for at least a week or so now. Let's see Bank Nifty what's happened. So yesterday it was pretty much clear after a small blip on the downside because of HDFC. Again, a good support has been taken at the lower levels and the pull up has happened, right? But on the higher side, when I see now, this becomes a very crucial point. On the higher side, we already know from the weekly point, 25,800 is the huge resistance zone. Now what I see over here after continuous downfall in Nifty, what we are seeing, once these levels are panned out or crossed to about 25,150 point, straight again towards 25,400 is possible. Now we need to go out and see who can push this, or is it possible, or will it get stuck around this 25,200 level, right? So at least for time being now on the daily chart, it looks like something promising. A kind of rounding fashion can be formed on the Bank Nifty. So if I just go out and see even on the lower front of 4 hours chart, same seems to be visible, right? So it just went up. Now the point it went down, now sideways, and yesterday's click on the downside, now it is trying to re-emerge for the target of 25,400. Now if you see over here, there was a good resistance around this level where continuous selling took place, and then multiple candles went sideways, and now it is trying to breach above this level. So today's high, that is 25,100, becomes a huge resistance point for Bank Nifty, right? So that we need to keep it intact, or we need to focus if it can cross past this level, because there have been multiple level of support which was formed, and then selling came by around this level. Now it is trying to retouch or retest 25,100. So only if it passes 25,100, straight target towards 25 or 25,150 to be precise, it will reach towards 25,400. So keep this point in check for this expiry, whether it can breach this level or not. If it cannot, then we are quite certain it is headed again on the downside. So it will provide pressure to Nifty unless it does not process 25,150. Coming down for the gainers and losers today, let us see something different is there, or yet IT is taking the rule. Not yet. So when we see on the Yes Bank from the banking side is straight away 3% up. So that basically means banking is trying to provide support to Nifty. Second, even ICICI Bank is 2% up. So this basically clearly shows the IT are now not the gainers, right? So IT is now sidelined. Apart from IT, Pharma has basically come up to the mark. So Sun Pharma, Dr. Reddy, Lupin, all three, the top guys are there in the gainers list. That's on the top point, along with the private bank. So there is a certain shift of the gainers that has happened. That basically clearly shows now Pharma is trying to take the lead. IT is out, oil marketing companies are out, Reliance somewhat is now going sideways. There is no ITC, Hindustan Unilever is already at the high. So all the tough ones have been played out, right? So there was only ICICI which was pending. That has also now started moving. Okay, so that is private and Pharma. Let's see what about IT. Now what I see over here, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, HCL, Infosys, except for TCS because of the bonus issue which has been laid, all the IT companies are now facing some kind of resistance at the upper level, right? So one, those are down. Second, again Hindalco 8% down, and then Vedanta again down, and Tata Steel. So commodity play is not working out, and even oil is remaining high. So oil marketing companies will also face a bit of downside. oil marketing companies, commodities, and now IT. Three are in the losing side. So pretty much there is large amount of pressure now on Nifty from the other segments as well. So predominantly two guys are now supporting today, which is pharma, and the other one is private bank. Let's look at one of the top stock, which is Maruti. Now why we have picked Maruti? Because if you see over here, right at the top was made around these levels, around the 9,350 mark, and then continuous selling has come by. Right, so it has undergone good amount of selling. This was the gap up point and the previous gap up point which has happened, and it zoomed higher, came back down, not all to the gap up point, but at least nearing towards that. Now what I see today, which was something very different and particular, it basically went, so from continuous 4 candles on the downside, it basically went sideways with a small pop of a green candle, and today it opens with a gap up. Right, so one, it opened with a gap up, and second, it went above previous 2 days high. So this high and the previous open, or you can say yesterday's close, all are breached by today's gap up. Right, so that basically shows a pullback can come from Maruti, and in one straight day it can reach towards 9,200 plus levels, and then straight towards the same testing high which was maintained around this 9,350 level. Right, so that seems to be there on the cards for Maruti. 4 hours will provide clear picture. If we try to see, this was the downside which was there, continuous downside along with the trend line. If I just draw a simple trend line from the top here, continuous downside was seen, and then the reversal can be easily spotted, because after the trend line was broken, the green candle came in, it went sideways, did not breach the bottom, and now it is trying to inch on the higher side. Right, so 4 hour clearly gives you a very clear picture that can be a quasi for the daily uptrend. So around these levels of uptick of Maruti, even today can become the top gainers list. Till now it is not there. Right, so keep an eye on that. And second, if you go even on the 15-minute chart, what we see after a strong pull up in the first 15 minutes is trying to give away some gain, but if it tries to sustain above this 9,100 level, you can see a second upsurge happening in the second part of the day. Right, so that's Maruti. Let's take the other stocks which are also part of Nifty but has been hidden and now trying to provide good amount of support. So first is L&T. If we see, L&T has been good and strong. So what we see over here, there was a good uptick which came, and then selling came by, then it went almost sideways. Now it is again trying to inch on the higher side. Obviously, the pull up in L&T can only happen after 1370 is taken out. But the important milestone now remains on the high side, which is 1385. Okay, so L&T is now strong, one of the strong candidates whom you can look out for, but ideally it has to cross the base which is formed around this level of 1360 or 1370, and then the upsurge will come into play. So L&T becomes one of the good candidates for the upside, because this is the target where L&T can just zoom and reach because of the gap down, and the prior resistance is also around these levels. So Maruti, L&T seems to be good, promising. Z, we have already spoken a lot about Z. What we see again on Z, it is pretty much clear after the upsurge which happened. So this was the huge resistance point for Z around this 590. It went out towards the 600 like a spike, came back down. Today again, if you see, the low was basically made around this 590 zone. Right, so there is a clear support above 590. Z seems to be very, very bullish, and straight away 610 maybe to 620 is easily likely on the cards. Right, so if you see over here, it went down, but it formed a U-shaped pattern, trying to inch up after the huge selling came by. So it never breached the base. Okay, trying to remain here for 3-4 candles, then it remained sideways on the upper side, and then it perched itself on the higher side of the resistance. Now the point is, after last 3 days it is going sideways. Today is the 4th day. You can see a good uptick of 610 or plus happening on Z. So if you try to reconfirm, let's say from 4 hours setup, it is way more clear what exactly has happened. It tried to go up, did not, came back down, tried several times to reach above this, did not. Again came back over here, tried to sustain, did not, came down, and this is where the pop came into existence, right? So after testing once, now twice, and during the result season, if it is testing a crucial level and it is on the verge of breakout in consolidation zone, it is very, very clear it can go towards the levels of 620. So keep an eye on Z, L&T, Maruti. These are stocks which are not related to a complete Nifty category, a heavyweight kind of stuff. So this is where they can be odd man out. Even if Nifty goes down, they can yet perform. Yes Bank, as we have already spoken a lot about Yes Bank as well. What I see on the Yes Bank, even on the 4-hourly chart, this 320 was a huge resistance prior as well. Many times reaching here, it came back down. It almost tried to reach out towards 320, it did not. Then a continuous selling came in, right? So this was the last point where it was trying to reach out or break, could not, came down. After this red candle, you are seeing good upside happening in Yes Bank. So this clearly shows a positive sign for Yes Bank, and a bottoming out also taking place. Then this clearly happens out after 316. So this was the top point of the Moribazu 316 that is broken in the morning itself with the opening and straight away bullish candle, right? So it is trying to break the higher resistance zone of 320. So if you get Yes Bank on the downside, and if this time if it comes down, similar to Z, it is on the verge of breakout, and you can see higher levels even on Yes Bank. So 340, 335 to 340, 336 levels is quite possible on Yes Bank as well. So keep an eye on Yes Bank, verge of breakout, and good rounding fashion has been formed after selling. A quick buying support has also come into place. So Yes Bank can also be one of the candidate for the bank side. Now let's go out and look at ITC, which is little bit heavyweight and sideways. Now what we see on ITC also, we can basically gauge if anyone can provide good support to Nifty. So what has happened to an ITC? So from the bottom, there has been quite a stunt rally which has taken place from 268 to 277, and now it is going sideways. Right? So last 4 candles or 4 days, even including today, it is almost in the sideways zone. Now try to understand, it will not just go out and shoot, because there has been a complete upside which has taken place, right? So from 260 level to 280 level, already big upside has taken place on ITC. If you see on the upside, there is no big upside left in ITC, right? So almost towards the level of 285, we can assume is the range where the higher resistance, or you can say the selling, has also always been seen around these levels, right? So 283, 285 are the zone where again ITC can go out after breaking this consolidation zone, but there is not a huge upside for ITC. So again, support on Nifty cannot be brought by ITC much on the upside. Banks, only Yes Bank seems to be promising, HDFC is done, and none of the other private banks seems to be good enough. Again, I go out and see the other heavyweight, which is Reliance. So when I see Reliance, things are pretty much clear and way more supported. Now what I see on Reliance, there was a continuous rally which took place one straight way. If we just put again a simple trend line like we were doing for Nifty, what we see over here, which this is what I want, right? So straight away it is going up every day, quite steady, and then it goes almost sideways. Now this is not a good sign, right? So when it goes sideways, now the only good point is if it can cross this particular higher level, right, where it is today, because this is where the selling came in, or continuous resistance was there, it came back down. Now it is trying to test the same level of 945. So uptick can only come in Reliance if it tries to breach this 945 levels, but again, if you see, there are resistance at every level. So almost on the upside, you can say 975 is possible for Reliance as well, but we need to keep an eye if it passes this important mark. Now first resistance will come around 58 or so, and then towards 75 or so. So that is still there on Reliance, so some kind of resistance, and after a huge uptrending rally which has happened in Reliance, many people are long on Reliance, right? So that is where now the further upside can only come during the result time. by posting a very good set of numbers. So this is what we are trying to see even after going sideways below the trend. Now it is trying to breach 945, 946. So once it breaches, there will be a sudden uprise for Reliance as well. When we see on the 4-hourly chart, it becomes very, very clear. Just a red candle followed by green candles, and it is trying to reverse over here. One complete red candle, two green candle, and then it is trying to go past the above selling which has taken place from this red candle. Now, once it breaches this level, it is pretty much clear. Then only an upside in Reliance is quite possible. So Reliance and ITC can give a little upside, right, and can provide support to Nifty. Bank Nifty only can come from maybe little of Axis, ICICI, and yes, and HDFC is almost done. So this is how things are panning out. If you try to look at some oil marketing company, let's say BPCL. Now oil has gone up in a jiffy, one way up, but what I see on the BPCL, if you try to see on the daily chart, things do not look that clear. But at least after a huge gap down, full selling taking place on BPCL, it is now going sideways, right? So there is no one, the falling has stopped. Second, what I have seen over here, a doji pattern forming. After that, uptick, or you can say the gap up, and this level is maintained. So this was something unique which I found in BPCL, basically it tells me that the downfall can be now stopped. And you can see one candle of indecisiveness of the trend, the second candle going gap up, and it is above the base of this red candle. Second candle today, again, if you see the open, was equal to almost low, and it is trying to go up like a surge, right? So 395 can be there on the cards for BPCL, and these are high beta stocks because of the commodity base, and the oil have been boiling high. So let's see if this can pan out, and clearly seems to be quite in the positive territory. If we go out and see on the 4-hourly chart, again what we see over here after the selling taking place, a complete U-shaped pattern and then gap down, and it is trying to inch higher. Now this green candle, what we see right in the morning itself, it is above all the previous resistance and above this base. The red candle which is there at the base, it is almost above this resistance level of 581, right? That is why we are seeing a good pop on the BPCL, right? So keep an eye on BPCL. Same can be looked into HP and IOC as well. But this is where oil marketing company can bring little bit of surprise element on the upside after undergoing a huge fall off, right? So ICICI, one of the banks in the Bank Nifty, what we see on the daily chart, yes, it had basically given a good rally from the downside. If you see, after a huge fall, a good supportive rally has come into place. But after that, we again found last 4 days inching itself down. But the good point was this was the multiple level support, where it again took some support, and then today open is equal to low and trying to inch high. So the rally can continue towards this level of 290 or so, and then you can find another uptick coming in ICICI. But more than ICICI, as I said, Yes Bank seems to be more promising, and the setup and the construction of Yes Bank seems to much better compared to ICICI, right? So there will be an upsurge in ICICI, which we have seen today in the top gainers list as well, but it is a limited upside, right? So Yes Bank is much more preferred candidate than ICICI Bank. And even if I go and see Axis Bank, so Axis Bank was good, but problem was it went up like a straight rocket, went sideways, and then almost for 5 days being in the sideways zone, opened little gap up, and then came back and gave away all the gain. So it is the irony, if you see from where it started, it went out, came back to the same levels. Now you can find some kind of surprise or up element in Axis Bank as well. So Axis and ICICI agreed can provide good kind of up move. But after seeing the strength not continuing and giving away all the gains, I do not prefer these two banks, right? They do not show some strength. They are just trying to go sideways in the up and down manner. But Yes Bank can be a serious breakout, which is quite possible, right? So keeping an eye on Yes Bank becomes way more better. So if you see Yes Bank, agreed that there was a fall in Yes Bank also when the entire Bank Nifty went down. But if you see over here, even after the fall, it again climbed itself up. Today again it opens and then it tries to zoom. Now what happens today? It becomes a top gainer. Everyone would be buyer. So a follow-up rally might not come through by tomorrow itself. Okay, so it might come back down. All I need to see intraday, if it comes down and goes up here again, then you can get into Yes Bank. Right, so Yes Bank seems to be way more better structure. If you see now, it is almost on the breakout zone. Those have corrected and then they are trying to go high. Right, so Yes Bank seems to be more promising. And then you have result of Yes Bank on 26, which also becomes one more best factor of Yes Bank, crossing the breakout zone and inching high towards 335, 340 or 344 levels. Right, so Yes Bank can be kept on the cards, and some of the other stocks like Z, Reliance, Maruti, BPCL, they seem to be more promising. Right, try to look at those stocks which are not in the gainers list. When the stocks are not in the gainers list and you try to forecast those gains are possible or not, then they basically become a part of the gainer list, right? So what we see over here today, Maruti is not there, Reliance is there, you can see even BPCL is there somewhat, and even you can see Yes Bank is straight away on the top of the cards, right? But these are good promising bets, at least for the next week or so. But always keep this in mind, expiry is nearing 26th, and then a real scenario would change, right? We need to know how much rollover takes place, OI gets shifted, and we need to understand the shorts are still there in the system or not, right? So that is where the 26 becomes a good deciding factor for our market, right? So till then, I think mostly it will remain range bound to the upward bias. There won't be much downside in Nifty for next 2 days or so. So look at those stocks which can give you a better upside for this week, and then try exiting your positions. Do not try to keep your positions after the expiry. I repeat, do not try to keep your positions after the expiry, because after a huge uptick, a sudden 200 points move of downside, which is just 2% on Nifty, is quite possible, right? So 2% down and then panic selling, if it comes in and breaches this 10,400 mark, straight away another 2% down is quite possible, right? So that is where panic selling can come in after the expiry. And keeping in mind, there is one more event panned out, 2nd of May, which is Fed event, right? So all that can bring in volatility. So it is better for next 2 days, when we know markets are going to expire a little higher, and in that zone you can basically target some of your trades, but try to be light after this weekend. Okay? Thank you very much for joining in, and we'll connect again tomorrow.